Trump. Smashing victory. This is an older video, but it's an amazing thing. How could people have not voted for Kamala Harris? She had such a clear vision for the presidency. She was born a middle-class woman. Her mother worked real hard, saved up after divorcing her father. No tax on tips, and it'll be better under the next 4 years of Kamala than it was under the last 3.5 years of Kamala. Listen to Trump from a little while back. This is a campaign video.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all. And corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively.
Viciously.
Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled, so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe.
I'll stop it there. If you haven't seen it, I'll give you the link. Who could possibly imagine that such a vision for a debureaucratized America would resonate? Who would imagine? It's almost like when people have access to the information that they need, they can make enlightened choices that are actually in their best interests, without being browbeaten into submission by a bunch of elitist pricks, because they will never be impacted by the nefarious negative consequences of the policies of the people that they're electing. They are shielded. Eminem, Cardi B, John Legend, Michael Keaton. Now that Trump has won in a decisive victory, I said, how could you have elected a criminal? Understand this. The American people overwhelmingly elected him despite what they saw. There's a risk, there's a fear. People are like, okay, they're going to impeach Trump because now they actually have an actual high crime or misdemeanor. Remember the first impeachment, they said, we don't have to have a crime. We can impeach him if we don't like the color of his tie. It's a political process. The argument was, no, you actually have to have a crime. That's what it says. So now they've got their crime. You think you're going to get away with impeaching him when he was just elected based on that information? Hell's no. But the question is now, what happens to all of the convictions and the charges against him? It's an amazing thing. New York, E. Jean Carroll was a state law, so it's a state finding of liability, so it can't be pardoned. The state fraud conviction under Tish James, that can't be pardoned either because it's a state conviction. It will be overturned on appeal now, and now the ever so brave Court of Appeal of New York, waiting until after the election to see what happens in order to see what they do with that overturning of the decision. Now they've got the political cover to overturn it. Boy, howdy, overturn it and sanction everyone involved. May that happen, but that won't. They'll just overturn it. Rico out of Georgia, done. Jack Smith out of DC, done. Florida was already done. No one's above the law. Oh, no. If he had not been elected, they would have tried to lynch him even more than they already did. Now that he's elected, they've got to drop it because you don't prosecute a sitting president, but he's not the sitting president yet. But do we have enough time? It's November 8th, November, December. Can we convict him in 2 months? Can we even have it? No, you can't. And so they're dropping the charges. But listen to how MSM propagandists at MSNBC have to report on this.
Yeah, Chris, it's not a surprise that these cases can't go forward when Donald Trump takes office. What's interesting here is that the DOJ is moving to end them even before he takes office, citing the long-standing DOJ policy that sitting presidents can't be prosecuted. And there was some thought that maybe Special Counsel Jack Smith was going to sprint through the finish line, was going to work up until the last day, force Trump to fire him, wait till a new attorney general was appointed. But that does not appear to be the thinking inside the department. The thinking is that these cases can't go forward. There's no reasonable prospect of getting to trial within the 3 months before Donald Trump takes office. These cases are mired in legal issues that would be appealed all the way to the Supreme Court had Donald Trump lost the election. So now that he's won the election, DOJ officials are thinking...
DOJ should admit, it's DOJ has to say it's DOA. And not fire Jack Smith, by the way, moron, because he might have been, and arguably definitively was, unconstitutionally appointed. We're going to see what happens with those lingering questions. They're going to drop all of this so that those issues presumably don't have to get dealt with anymore.
That, look, there's just no room to move in these cases. And so the sensible thing to do is to figure out a way to wind them down. And it may stem from Donald Trump's lawyers filing some kind of motion or making a request saying, in light of the DOJ policy, you need to drop these cases. Now, there are a few wrinkles here. one of which is that the classified documents case includes 2 other defendants who are not subject to that policy. And it's been dismissed, obviously, but that dismissal has been appealed. And the DOJ considers that ruling to be very bad law that it would like to be overturned. So that appeal may continue in some form. But the reality is that Donald Trump is not going to be a part of these cases. And what this means, I mean, we knew this, right? But just coming to grips with what this means intellectually is that Donald Trump is not likely to be held accountable on these very serious federal criminal charges that many people believe were worse than what Richard Nixon did or was accused of doing in Watergate. Now, there's no guarantee that Donald Trump would have been convicted at trial, but as Joyce Vance, our legal commentator,
the concern is that he won't be held accountable, but there was no guarantee that he would have been convicted at trial. Does anybody pick up on the nuance of guilty until proven innocent by these commie bastards?
said to me this morning, what's not going to happen is he's not going to face a jury of his peers. No guarantee that Donald Trump would have been convicted at trial, but as Joyce Vance, our legal commentator, said to me this morning, what's not going to happen is he's not going to face a jury of his peers who would evaluate the evidence and render a verdict. It's going to be lost to history whether a jury would have found him guilty of these very serious.
Can you believe how stupid that legal analysis is by Joyce Vance? He's not going to be tried by a jury of his peers. He was just tried and he was approved by 75 million of his peers. They knew what was going on, people. They knew, and they elected him nonetheless in a landslide. Oh, but he's never going to get to face a jury of his peers. You mean a lynch mob in DC that went 96% Kamala Harris? What was the number out of DC? DC, 92.5% Kamala Harris, 6.7% Donald Trump. These jackasses are dismayed that Trump is not going to get a jury of his peers in the lynch mob state of Washington, D.C. district, not state. It's a wildly beautiful thing. They don't understand it. And they're going and lashing out on Twitter, blaming the immigrants who voted for Trump, blaming the women who voted for Trump. 53% of women didn't vote for Trump. The other 47% are stupid and voted against their own interests. Oh, 55% of Latinos didn't vote for Trump, but 45% did, and they're stupid and they don't know what's in their best interests. This is plantation mentality. It's defining of the Democrat Party. And it's going to be the defining element of why they continue to sink like a stone, because they're so stupid, arrogant, pompous, ill-informed, and prejudiced that they do not learn from their mistakes. They only double down, and thank goodness that there are fewer and fewer people doubling down on their stupidity and their arrogance. They don't care one iota about you unless it's to pander for your vote. And if you dare defy them with your vote, well, then you become a self-hating woman, a self-hating Latino. We have to have a talk with the Latinos of America now. Now, all of a sudden, the liberals aren't quite so pro-immigrant anymore. Or you become a dipshit if you are John Fetterman, talking about your constituents of Pennsylvania. I screen grabbed this. The idiot still, I guess I challenged him to delete it, so he's not going to. John Fetterman tweeted out yesterday, Pennsylvania is going to count every last vote. That's not controversial. That's the law. Also, green dipshits votes helping elect the GOP. Green dipshits. Their votes are helping elect the GOP. By the way, hey, Fetterman, are you going to call the Green Party dipshits in Arizona because they're preventing thus far Carrie Lake from winning? Are they dipshits when they hurt you and patriots when they don't? Fetterman, you are a world-class piece of trash. I'd like to give you a benefit of the doubt and say maybe it's from the stroke that I'm not trying to be glib. Maybe there's some lasting impact from that, but I'm not sure what this guy was ever like before. Fetterman is the is he not the senator? He is the senator for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. He's calling his constituents dipshits. And I said, I'm screenshotting this for when you delete the tweet in which he called his constituents dipshits. Resign, Fetterman. And there's the archive link in case anybody doubts the evidence. And the amazing thing is, they're borrowing off each other's stupid, terrible ideas. You know, it's Tim Walz called Elon Musk a dipshit, like the dipshit. Now this is the thing. It went from weird to dipshits, and now John Fetterman, dipshit extraordinaire. And I will call Fetterman a dipshit because I'm calling an individual a dipshit based on his individual conduct, not an aggregate of my constituents' dipshits.